So, follow-up question from GingerAtheist. He says, thanks for answering my question. If you have the time, which I apparently do, please comment to this follow-up. You stated that you support Occupy, OWS, but don't support actions by fellow protesters by not repeating them. Yeah, sometimes I see something that they're doing, like a interfaith service where I don't feel welcome, or having Father Ian have a mass for them, or something for a Christmas parade, or they're about to have a Christian Dominionist speak about the Constitution, things like that. I don't attend because I just don't feel like supporting it. I don't support the actions by fellow protesters by not repeating them. Isn't the inaction a cop-out for people to do whatever they wish under the heading of OWS? For the past 3 months, this has been the struggle that has been the most divisive thing. When people come, they're told that this is an all-inclusive movement, and that at the General Assemblies, anyone is allowed to speak about anything that they have a grievance for. Anyone who has a grievance can air it about anything. And then from there, we're told not to be co-opted by any movement. So on one hand it's all inclusive, and then on one hand it's all exclusive, and it's created the bulk of the friction that we see, and you can see in that video from the GA that was filmed last night on the Occupy Colorado channel. Let's see. I like that OWS are informing others, but doesn't the political inaction of the protesters defeat the purpose of having an informed public? Well, not necessarily. I think that political action and staying away from it was, on one hand, it was a response to feeling like they were disenfranchised anyway. Like there's some huge disconnect between the voting public and the politicians anyway, so the General Assemblies are basically a place for people to air grievances that would never be heard by politicians who are lobbied daily, and if you're not a corporation with big bucks, you can't get into a politician's office to speak to him. So I think part of the political inaction of them is actually a response to the futility of it. And I think they instead went for informing the general public of certain issues as a way to gain political power that could not be ignored. Yeah, a corporation can sit there in a senator's office and buy his time, basically, and keep him from hearing the grievances of the people. But if the people move in a big enough voting bloc towards something, there's no way the senator can ignore it. And I think it's about growing awareness of certain issues to the point where politicians can't ignore that the people are informed and don't like being ignored. Doesn't the grouping of so many ideals make social inaction impossible? I'd say I feel you there. I really do. I had a 2-hour-long conversation with Raven today about that exact thing. For instance, I feel like every time someone who brings their cause to the movement, they divide it even further. In the town that we live in, the peace protesters have been the most perseverant of all the protesters because they were protesting before this movement started. And when they come down to the corner, they always hold signs that say peace in a town that's surrounded by military bases. So all the kids from those military bases, you know, whose parents are soldiers or airmen, or their parents are defense contractors. The war industry is big around here too. When they drive by, they see a peace sign and they pretty much see, you know, fuck your parents, you know, fuck your overseas soldier dad, and they don't like it. Even messages that a greater understanding of that message would be, you know, we actually like troops and want them to come home safely. Those are misinterpreted by kids all the time as basically fuck the troops. So when we have peace protesters there, there's a certain segment of the population that won't be there. When we have medical marijuana protesters, there's a certain segment of straight-edge churchgoers that won't be there. When we have MoveOn.org and union reps coming to our protest, then we won't have teabaggers there, or tea partiers. Sorry. And when we have tea partiers there, then MoveOn.org and the unions don't want to be there. When we pick a political target like Hickenlooper and Mike Check, a Democrat, the unions then pull their support, even though that Democrat would have been able to say something about the police brutality and continues to choose not to say anything about the police brutality in Denver. And the unions are basically in the pockets of the Democrats and vice versa. So as soon as you know a little political action happened, we lost a whole bunch of support from people. So yeah, every person that has their own agenda that comes and brings their agenda with them kind of alienates other people. There are people who don't want this to be about homeless advocacy, and then there are homeless protesters. And some people just don't like the thought of feeding homeless people as part of the protest. And some people need to be fed because they're homeless, and they need shelter given to them as protesters because they're homeless, and that's the only way they can be there. There are so many different dichotomies that I can draw you that basically have gotten us down to the core set of hardcore protesters that just, even though they have their agendas that they bring with them, they're still not alienated for whatever reason. And yeah, it does make social action pretty much impossible, and we saw that when the unions pulled their support of Occupy the minute we decided to try to scrutinize a Democrat. So yeah, I guess it's more possible now because those people have been alienated. And now that they're alienated, we can not worry about alienating them any further because they're not supporters. And that sucks, that they're not supporters, but I'm kind of used to this as a skeptic, letting the chips fall where they will, searching the truth no matter where it leads you, So, also, they like to say that, we are the 99%, or at least they represent the 99%, even if a lot of people don't agree with what they're doing, they still represent the 99%. And they tell people, you are the 99%. I'm more used to being a part of a group of people in my country that is the 4%, the atheists. And I'm used to people not liking what I'm doing. And I think we have conflicting ideals with the whole trying to be all-inclusive and then being exclusive or making decisions. So, yeah, I think this has been a learning experience for all social movements. Everyone should have been paying attention to what happened when Occupy Wall Street became more than just Zuccotti Park and spread all over the fucking world. Because it tapped into something that a lot of dead movements are wanting from it. I've seen the Tea Party visit and say, hey, you can come join us. We have the same problems as you do. And I've seen the Green Party come and say, hey, you can join us. We have the same ideals you do. I have videos of both of those. The unions, MoveOn.org, all these different groups. Save Republicans. I haven't seen those yet. But there are a bunch of protesters who support Ron Paul, who tend to alienate the Democrats in the group. It's... yeah. It was a very big umbrella, and I think it was meant to be as big as it possibly could, to cover as many different ideals as it could. But then, any time you want to make any decision, if you have an umbrella that fits everyone, and then you decide to do something, you're going to alienate people. And I've seen it. And it hurts every time I see a big swath of people leave because something didn't go their way, Even protesting Walmart and, all the Chinese sweatshop horrors that they can put on signs with that. Even protesting Walmart has alienated people from the movement. But I continue to see positives in most everything that they do. And the things that I don't see positives in, I get alienated from. Raven being a person of the Muslim faith. She's going to have problems listening to a Christian dominionist speak about the Constitution as well. Neither of us go to the masses held by Father Ian. And, yeah. Sometimes it's easier to forget about the movement and go to the Pikes Peak Skeptic Society for brunch on December 25th. Newton Miss, they call it. Even though on a different calendar, the 25th isn't Newton's birthday anyway. But, yeah, Hitchmas, whatever. Because, although they're not trying to politically do anything, at least they all get along and have similar ideals. And it was a breath of fresh air that morning. I think my 15 minutes might be up. So I'm going to cut it off here. Follow up if you want.